Hi, I'm Rachel,
I'm Julia.
where we live in faith every day.
This is Life.
Welcome to Life.
Hey guys!
We thought it would be a good topic to discuss because we saw this being very prevalent, and we came across this question about 3 months ago at a leaders meeting, and to us we're just like, wait, what? But then kind of looking back, it makes a lot of sense, and it sounds, and it's very relevant because we see a lot of churches going down this path. And the question was, how do we have members not come for social reasons only? And it's a big issue, I think, because a lot of churches are no longer coming for the spiritual reasons and for worship. A lot of people are coming for social aspects only, and that's pretty telling.
Yeah.
It's very telling.
And it's become so normal, like, actually I was surprised that this leader brought it up, realizing the problem. I think that's the first step, because a lot of these leaders are like in the world, even our church, we don't realize, that there's this problem,
Because it's so normal. They think
normal.
that's maybe how it should be or how it could be, or even maybe thinking that's the best that we can do, so we're not going to change anything about it.
Yeah, and it goes off of our quantity and quality. It's more about the numbers. So it's like, oh, more members, so there isn't a problem because we have a lot of members.
Right. And that's the only thing they really focus on. They don't focus on what is being said or the relationship between the people and God. They only look at, okay, our church is growing, our membership is growing.
Yeah.
But then where do you go from there?
And it's funny because you do see a lot of people super pumped up about God, but then it's actually the social high they get than the spiritual high, right?
I just had this very interesting image in my head.
Why? Of what I just said?
No. So, okay. Quantity over quality, right?
Right.
When someone eats a lot of quantity of food, they grow this way.
Oh my goodness! Okay.
But if you have quality food, right, they build more muscle and they become stronger, so they grow this way.
Oh my.
I just had this thought in my mind.
All right. It's the new year.
So, anyway.
Welcome to our channel, everyone, where you grow quality this way and quantity this way.
Okay.
Anyway. Sidetracked, but it's okay.
No, I just pictured it in my head.
It's 2019.
So-
There'll be more sidetracked going on.
Okay, here's the silly side of us.
I don't know if you call this a silly side.
I guess it's the real side.
What do you mean? We're real all the time.
More real, less serious.
Oh my goodness. Okay, stop that.
Anyways, all right. I think the first point that should be made is that the fact that you see that having a social interaction only at church as a problem. Because if you think about it, every church has its own problems.
It does. And it's not just one problem, there's many problems.
Right. But the thing is, it can be turned into a strength. You know how even in the Bible, and God talks about this, where you can turn your weakness into a strength.
Right.
Well, we are social beings. God created us to be social. Isn't that what fellowship is all about? Isn't that what having relationships with other church members is all about? Or creating that relationship with other people is all about? So
It's actually a good thing.
yes,
Yeah.
in all actuality, having a social church is, I think, a huge and an amazing thing.
It's a big advantage. It's
Right.
just not just social things, but a lot of different things can be used in the wrong ways. And that's what it is. It just became, not a good thing.
Right.
It just takes away from the people and God's relationship.
And so I think that if you take that and molded in the right direction, it could be a huge strength.
Yeah.
Where, you know, for example, let's say with a friend of mine, I've known that person before I met God and after I met God, right? What we talk about might have shifted, but our relationship stayed the same.
Yeah.
So if we didn't have that conversation and have that relationship before, then it couldn't have had that shift.
Right.
Or even start talking about God or our spiritual life. But because we had that basis, or, you know, maybe you started with God as your basis. But in all actuality, both are good strengths that you can have. And having that social aspect in church, I think, is a huge blessing, because there are other churches out there who don't even have the social aspect. People just come to church, have service, and then leave.
That might actually be another problem of its own, you know?
Right.
So honestly, yeah, it's in the wrong mindset, but it's actually really good that you have this social environment where you can have fellowship with others. And, you know, that's a good opportunity to show love, right? God's love, and you just expressing love to others.
Just in a different way.
Right. And I'm sure even though there's a lot of people going for social reasons, there are a few people in there that are there for the right reasons. So I feel like those people have a very important role in, you know, showing those other people, you know, we can change, you know, to change the mindset. Obviously, they won't know that, right? You have to show it for them. You have to change first so you can change others, and they'll see it.
Again, remember, we always talk about God loves you for you to love yourself and for you to love others. And I think that's the same case when it comes to social aspect, right? You have the social aspect so you can learn to respect each other and all of that stuff. Now, just sprinkle in a little bit of spirituality and then there you go, right? So, I mean, again, there are some people who come for church for only social aspects, and so they're missing the spirituality. So sprinkle on the spirituality. Or you might go to a church that has too much spirituality, but not the social aspect. And so you might need to sprinkle in the social aspect.
Right.
Because that's what God is about, the social.
Yeah. And I would say from personal experience, no, like, try not to force anything, because it's really hard when you force something. Then, like, you know, if you take it away, if you take the social away, what happens is then you just lose everything. Yeah, it's really hard. So take it little by little and don't force anything. If anything, just, you know, show them it can be done.
Use it as a building block,
right,
rather than a stumbling block.
Yeah. And especially with younger age groups, I feel like, because, you know, social media and stuff like that's so huge, right? And, like, you know, using profanity and stuff like that, we really have to just, you know, work with what we have and kind of show them, hey, like, we can do this, and this comes with the boundaries, right? So
absolutely. And again, it starts with the parent. So we talk about this a lot, and as leaders, I think it's really, really important, because we both are leaders, and so we are the parental figure of whatever group that we're working with, right? And so we have to be the one that sets the tone. We have to be the one that sets the culture. Unfortunately, I think for some well-established churches, the culture is already set. So that's going to be very difficult to work with. If you're just starting a new church or a new group, then, you know, it's a huge task of creating the right culture, creating the right environment, and the right tone. But if you already have a group, then you have to undo the culture, right? Not forcibly and not all at the same time, but you have to undo it and start substituting it for different parts of the culture and different elements of the culture. But again, it starts with the parent, whether it be the pastor, leaders, elders. Whoo, in Korean cultures, oh man, elders, that's a huge thing, right? And that's where it begins. If the leaders can't stand their ground or have difficulties standing their ground and having their own, I guess, foundation, then that's where it begins. It starts with the parent.
Right. And I mean, if you're a member and you're seeing these, I think, you know, you just realizing and you wanting to make a change is super important, because you can become that example and help the elders, the leaders, and adults, you know, just grow and kind of see, oh, I think even though they're just a member, you know, they're doing something, they're, you know, they're going the right direction, we should change as well. It takes time. It doesn't happen like this. And there's a lot of trial and error going on. It's not gonna, you know, just because you change one thing, it's not gonna happen like this. Yeah.
And not only that, but like when it comes to, you know, looking at the parent again, there needs to be a lot of inner evaluation, inner reflection.
We talk about this a lot. It's super important.
Because, okay, here's the thing. You cannot change someone, but you can change yourself.
Right.
And if you don't like the way things are going externally, then the only way you can change the external is by changing yourself, the internal.
And this goes for a lot of things.
No, this goes for everything.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, that's true for everything. Even in like our, oops, that must have been really loud. Anyways, for a lot of things, you know? But yeah, you're right. If you want to change
The
external, internal, and, you know, before anyone else, yourself first.
For example, when I'm working with kids, I can't change kids, right? Or I can't change the people. But what I can do is I can change how I interact with the kids so that they feel loved and they feel respected. And in turn, they will want to respect me.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of issues come when a lot of people think, oh, no, you need to respect me.
Demanding respect. Ooh.
Yeah, and that's what happens a lot. You
Especially with elders, yes.
not just elders, but I see it in like some leaders too.
Yeah,
you
but
know?
like the Korean community, I think there's just that thing where like you demand respect.
Right.
Especially if you have a higher position or if you're older. So I think it's just in the culture where you demand respect.
Right. So again, here's that culture aspect. If the culture is already set, that foundation is already set. That means you're going to have to break that foundation and rebuild from ground up.
Yeah, and again, this comes with all the humbleness. Again, being meek, you have to like, you really have to just give up sometimes, you know, just, hey, I'll, you know, cater to you. It's all good. Don't have your pride in the way. Drop that pride. It's hard. It's hard. It's really hard. But I promise you, it'll put you in a better place.
Yes, for sure. Because then you can meet them at their level instead of making them meet you at your level.
It's not gonna work. They can't meet your level.
No, because you're on a different level. However, as a leader, it's your job to meet them at their level. So.
Or if you're just a member and you're just like, you know, hey, I recognize these things and I think I can do something about it. Yeah.
Oh, that's another thing. People complaining about the church and not doing anything about it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, we're not going to get into that. But, you know, the biggest point here is that culture of the church is extremely important. How it's built, has it already been built? If it's new, then it's your job as the leader to set that tone.
Right.
And as a member, it's your job to kind of monitor your own behaviors and your own way of doing things, because you influence the people around you. Just because you're not a leader does not mean that you don't influence people around you.
No. I think members make more influences than the leaders, because the leaders, we react to the members as well.
Right.
Or like, you know, how they interact. So super important. And if you're, you know, a growing church, right, you're not new, you already have a culture set, remember, you can always mold it.
Right.
Mold it to becoming a better church of being more stronger in spiritual aspects, right?
And the other thing too is if you already have a culture, right, and you're trying to mold it, if you're taking one out, you have to replace it with something else. Like the Korean culture, right?
Ooh.
Or any ethnical cultures, it's you can't take something away and expect things to run. Instead, you can change it, but instead of this, you can do this, or instead of that, you can do this. Or if you have a certain value that you feel is not okay, then exchange it with a different value.
Right.
You have to, it's like a balancing act. If you take one out, then it's going to get unbalanced, so you're going to have to add something to
Right.
balance it back out. So again, that cultural aspect is extremely important, and the person that creates that culture is not just the leaders but also the members. And actually, it's the members that, you know, once it's formed, that's where it stays.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, leaders, we get the, you know, whiplash of it, the backlash of it, you know, if the, you know, members are not okay with it or they feel some sort of, you know, discomfort or whatnot. But again, just because you're a member does not mean that you don't have a role. You have a big role. And as leaders, you have to learn to be a follower first before you can become a leader. That's
Again,
the only way
the
it's gonna work.
humbleness.
Yes. So if the only thing you know how to do is lead, then maybe pull yourself out and try to be a follower.
Right. Remember, we're all followers of Jesus. You're not the leader. You can't go higher. You can't go above Jesus, right? So let's not be like Satan. Let's, you know, let's calm down a little bit. And I mean, that's something even we have to like check on ourselves, right? Really be like, what am I doing this for? And, you know, really watch it as leaders.
Yeah. We have to evaluate ourselves constantly, you know, or sometimes keeping each other in check, right? So that's a huge thing.
Yeah.
Also, another thing that we have seen is that church, people try to change the church as a whole or a group of people, right? So if it's EM, they want to try and change all of EM. Or, you know, if let's say we have collegiates and young adults, they try to change collegiate and young adults. But you can't change a group unless you start changing the individuals in the group. So instead of focusing on just the group, focus on the individual people.
And this is where, like, you know, fellowship is okay. Social, you know, for social. I think, like, personally, we try to, in order to change how we want the youth to flow, we create personal relationships with the kids and try to, like, you know, individually, not as a group. Yeah, we do a lot of group stuff because it's important to do group stuff, but also not targeting, but like, you know,
Getting to know each and every one of the members.
And that opens up a lot of doors. It does. You can reach out to more people through them, and then you can also just, you know, have them also help you grow, you know, grow as a group. So individually, like, you know, you first, then individually grow them, and then as a group, they'll grow.
And if you start with one person, as you get to know that person, you'll have room to, you know, get to know another person. Jesus didn't come down on earth and he saved the whole world. No, he worked with 12 disciples. Not 20, not 30, 12. Okay. I think that is a huge importance. It's like we try too hard to change a whole group of people. Again, quantity over quality, right? Or you're going to try and put a whole bunch of people together and be like, okay, look, we have a lot of members, right? Or are you going to work with each individual person because each individual people are that important? So it's where you feel like the importance lie. And if you feel like each individual person is important, that's what you'll focus on. Jesus focused on each individual people, their each individual needs, their each individual spiritual level. Whatever it was, everybody is on a different level of spirituality, growth, mental way of thinking. I mean, everything, right? So if Jesus only focused on 12, who are we to try to focus on 50 people at the same time?
It's impossible. I mean, it's possible, but it's very hard. It gets very messy, and you end up leading a lot of people in very different directions, and that's very dangerous, especially yourself, because you start getting worn out and you start, you know, going the wrong direction.
Also, I think if you do that, then you're gonna find some people falling through the cracks.
Yeah. So remember, slow and steady will win the race. Where's that from? This
brick by brick.
Brick by brick. Yeah.
Not a whole wall at a time. It doesn't work that way.
With a good foundation.
Right.
Good foundation, like we talked about.
Yes, and then brick by brick, right? So again, how do we get church members to come for more than just social? Number one, social is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Just mold it to
Use it.
Right. Use it to your advantage and then mold it. And second, it starts with you. You. I don't care if you're a member or a leader. It starts with you.
Yes.
And then third, what was the third one? Oh, if you're trying to change a culture, you can't take one out without replacing it with something else. And then last but not least, make sure that you're focusing on each individual people, not the group.
That's super important. Individual, spend time. Okay, time. I know time seems like a lot, right? You're like, oh, I have to do this and this. Just a little bit of time, just spending time with that person will do a big change. It's super important.
You know, and it's crazy because if you spend just 5 minutes with that person, you have no idea how long 5 minutes is. You can accomplish a lot of things in 5 minutes. And with it, you can create that relationship and that bond and that trust between that person. And if you just spend 5 minutes with one person per week, your relationship with that person can grow a lot.
Use it to your advantage. And honestly, it doesn't even have to be at church. Just contact them out of church. That's, I think, even more of like, you know, you're reaching out to them even more and giving more time. It shows that you really, truly want a relationship with them and they'll respond back.
Right. It's not just about church. It's not just about, oh, I have members at our church. It's about the relationships.
Yeah.
Church is just another place for everyone to get together, but it shouldn't be the only and the main thing.
Yeah. Everything should come from the heart. Remember, sincerity is so important, guys.
So, if you have any questions, comments, or ideas or thoughts, please leave it in the comments below.
Comments.
And if you haven't subscribed, please do so. And
hit that bell button.
Yes.
For more videos. And like this video if you like this video and if you want more videos like this.
yes. And till next time.
Bye.